doing negotiations with the Russians at the time you did in the early 90s seems like a very daunting task. How did you prepare yourself, I mean, on multiple levels, intellectually and emotionally, for taking that on? You've done it with the Europeans, but not the Russians before.
Yeah, there were a number of challenges to that. One of which was the Russians coming in and saying they didn't want to deal with a woman. And my boss basically said, well, if you want to be involved in station, you're going to have to deal with Lynn. So that was a first challenge. Another challenge an advantage I had for the first round was because we had these existing international agreements with Canada, Europe, and Japan that we could not change, and because Russia needed to be talking to us right away. Actually, the first round of negotiations was an interim agreement to just get Russia to buy into the text we already had, and then the full-up negotiations where we could open the language would come as a second step. So for that interim agreement, I was in the perfect position of saying, take it or leave it. That's the language. I can't change it. And the Russians found that incredibly annoying. But it was helpful in kind of gauging what kinds of things they're coming from. We had, during the course of the negotiations, before we started on the negotiations, we actually took a little short class on Russian culture and did some things, little role-playing exercises to get ready for things. We had some funny results from that. For example, we were told, Americans are very punctual, time is important, and Russians don't have that same view of the clock. And so we had one negotiating session where we went in for our morning session at Roscosmos. We broke for lunch. We left the building, went out, had lunch. And when we came back, every other day when we came in, the guards would make us wait for an escort before going up to the conference room. And on this day, the guards, I guess they were used to seeing us come in at this point, so they just said, go on through. So we said, well, okay. So we went on through, and we went back to the conference room we'd been in the morning, and the door was locked. So we're kind of milling around in the hall. No Russians. We're looking at our watch. No Russians. Periodically, we'd send our interpreter off to go check and see where they were. Still no Russians. So we're all kind of joking about, oh, good thing we had that course so we know not to be upset, and this is perfectly normal, and so on. And then it turned out they had moved to another conference room, and the whole time they were promptly there on time waiting for us to show up and be escorted in. So that was a little bit interesting. But one of the things that we did as a technique on the delegation is, when you're the lead negotiator like I was, you really have to stay very, very focused on the lead that you're talking to. And what they're saying, you have to listen very attentively so you can have a reply ready for any arguments that you need to respond to or answer questions. And so you can't see everything that's going on. You'd be distracted, and that wouldn't be helpful. But your delegation can. So I used my delegation to keep track of body language, pick up clues on what were hot button issues, and that helped us then, this one's really important to them. This one, they had one person they'd turn to talk that we joked about him being put on auto chat because he'd just go on and on. So when they turned it over to him and let him go, they were just stalling for time, and this wasn't an important issue. Yeah, we started picking up those clues, and using the whole delegation to observe was important. But I still was surprised at the very end of the negotiations because there were maybe 4 points that had been sticking points for probably 2 years, that I had non-negotiable U.S. positions, had to get them in, could not get the Russians to agree. Alex and I were tired of saying our talking points at one another. We could have switched roles easily. We'd been through it so many times. And we got to this one negotiating session, and whatever they had done internally to be ready to accept the agreement at that point had been done. And so I raised this point expecting the usual reply, and Alex said, no problem. Okay. Next point, no problem. And I'm sitting there thinking, who is this man and what has he done with Alex Krasnov? Mm-hmm. But that was the end of the negotiations. And so in retrospect, I learned that was part of their negotiating technique, was pick an issue that you know the Americans feel really strongly about, that they're going to fight hard for and never compromise on, and that's your stall tactic. Okay, until we've done everything we need to do domestically to be ready and have worked all the other issues. And I was absolutely convinced those were real issues for them, and in the end, they weren't.
I think the other challenge is you just think of the change that they were going through. You know, they had just dissolved from the Soviet Union into Russia, and you know, they had to go off and write treaties with Kazakhstan for their launches, and so we were in the middle of watching all this process as they were going through this real political tumult and their own funding issues. I mean, we knew that a lot of the folks that we were working with maybe wouldn't get paid. They certainly wouldn't get paid regularly, but they still, you know, because they shared that passion that we had, they still kept working. They still kept the mission going.